All right. Hello, people. I'm going to wait for Miranda to join in. Let me see if I can add her. Mira. There we go. See if we can get her in here. How's everybody doing? Hopefully we get some of you guys in here to chat with us. Today we are going to be discussing transitioning from paranoia to pronoia. What the heck does that mean? Well, me and Miranda are going to get in here and we're going to talk about that. So let's see, when Miranda gets in here, we can start our little live. All right, Miranda. Let's see, how do we add Miranda as a, there we go. Let's see. There we go.
Hi.
Yay, we're there. Woohoo!
Yeah, right? Technology is
Yeah.
always
Hello,
a thing, a puzzle.
Josie. How are you doing? So, we're gonna, we'll have a few people join in here shortly, but why don't we just start by introducing ourselves and then we can jump into our topic.
Sounds good to me. Let me just see real quick if I can do this. If
I like you
mine just sideways for
sideways
everyone.
better, man.
All
I
right.
mean, sideways is good. No.
It's okay. I think this will work here.
Yeah, it works. You can see
Okay,
your
sweet.
lovely face
Yeah.
easily.
Would you like to start the introduction or would you like me to?
You go first as you drink your coffee.
Okay. It's actually an infusion with yerba mate and motherwort and ginger, all the
Beautiful.
good stuff.
That's so much
Yes.
better.
Yeah. My nervous system does not do well with coffee unless I have like a lot of fat and food in my
Yes,
stomach.
same. I can't do
Um,
any caffeine at all. So I drink coffee, but it's decaf. And
hey
everyone's like,
Carmen.
why? What's the point?
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just wanted to shout out Carmen. I haven't seen Carmen since Atlanta. The first time I saw Carmen, we were in the energy healing training together. So
Oh,
good people.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's totally cool. Yeah, so why don't you tell us what you're doing? Who are you? What are you
Sure.
doing?
So my name is Mira Moon. A lot of people know me by Miranda. Mira is just half of Miranda, and I started going by Mira technically in 2019 when I was initiated into um, the first ancestral lineage that I undertook with priestesses. So that was the Dianic and Melisai lineages. Lineage of the goddess. So I decided to shorten my first name to Mira because it just resonated more. Um, and then also as I initiated into my other ancestral lineage, which is Ubungoma. And so that's a little bit about my name. So there's a lot of power there. And that's kind of a shout out to if anyone who knows me by Miranda is like, what happened with Mira? Because I never made like an official, like, everyone call me Mira. I just
Right.
kind
I
of changed.
still call you Miranda, but then I'm like, wait, it's Mira. It's Mira. I have to remind myself.
Right. Yeah, and I'm totally fine with Miranda. Like, Mira's just half of Miranda.
Yeah.
So,
And we
um,
met each other through dance, through belly dance, and that's kind of
yes.
like how it all started. But we've kind of had a similar path. We've been going through
Yeah,
very different, but
that's
very similar.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what's really beautiful, I feel like, about our relationship. So, um, so yeah, I've always loved nature, always have been a creative and artistic person. For what, I've been belly dancing for like almost 20 years. And that was a way. And, I used to do art when I was younger before I had kids until like I would paint and they would, my toddlers would come and screw it all up. So I was like, okay, I need to like do an art
Right.
form to channel all of this energy in a way that they can't like, mess it up and frustrate me. So dance was amazing and it still is amazing for that. Um, and basically I've, you know, I've had some spiritual experiences throughout my life, but really my life started changing after my father passed away. When he was about to pass away, actually, when he was on the threshold of passing away from cancer, some phenomena started happening, like visions and synchronicities, and people reaching out to me, um, kind of like introducing me to a more like spiritual and metaphysical life that I've never really had, like opened my eyes to in that way before. I've never been in, I always thought stuff was kind of woo woo. So anyway, that was in 2018, and from there a cascade of yeah, just like experiences have happened that really opened my awareness to a deeper place of seeing this life we're in. Um, and so, like I was saying, I was called by some priestesses of certain lineages, and initiated into those lineages. And then I, connected actually through Instagram with another priestess, and I began to do rites of passage in that lineage. These are nature-based, ancestral spiritualities. And, from there, that really helped me refine my intuition and again, have a lot of experiences that are just like so difficult to explain.
Right.
They're not really difficult to explain. I just am apprehensive about speaking
Yeah.
about them to a lot of people because we have this program in our society. It's like, oh, you're crazy. That goes
And
against, our perception of science, even though that's ever developing and
And the
things of that
reality
nature.
about you and I is that we are both those engineer brain type people, but we're also creative. So that like woo woo thing that you're talking about, like I was really resistant to that too for a long time. In fact, I remember one time you were telling me, oh, my dance has moved more into a spiritual based practice. And I was like, what would that be for me? I couldn't even imagine what I would do with that. But dance is so spiritual. Now I'm so aware
It,
of that.
it
But we're
sure
both
is.
very analytical, right? So we're
Right.
always like analyzing the process that we move through. And then I feel like you've kind of fallen onto this path that is sort of smooth that out and made me definitely more aware of the woo and less likely to start analyzing it. Just more
Right.
accepting of it, more accepting of the
Yeah.
woo.
Kind of like, and it's, when you have experiences that there's no denying, you have to be like, okay, I can't second guess my own senses opposed to what I've memorized from society.
Yeah,
So I just need to unlearn some things. And
right.
then the more you open your heart to the truth, the more teachers, guides,
Yeah,
um, you know, will come to you and show
yeah,
you
yeah,
that this is something that's always been with
yeah.
human beings. We're very spiritual human beings. And so I'm just going to finish that introduction really quick and then transition to you. So I want to say within all of this, my whole life, I've always been a person kind of up in the ethers. So the nature connection has really grounded me. And within that, like you, I got teachers and started learning herbalism, you know, mainly grounded in clinical herbalism and also like foraging and wildcrafting, primarily around invasives because we're an invasive culture. So I feel like focusing on the invasive plants, uh, they really are what's for us, and it just makes sense for that control. And so there's the herbalist work that I've been doing. And then now, after having a lot of these initiations, I've had spontaneous energy healing, uh, energy healing sessions that have popped up. So from there, I found a teacher for that energy healing to learn more about the skills and less just like random things happening.
Right.
And so,
Right. To be able
so
to
yeah,
do it at will instead of just, yeah, random.
yeah. So that's a bit about me on my path, other than being a mother of five
Right.
children, which
Yeah.
is obviously
Beautiful,
like
like gorgeous,
huge.
beautiful little
Hmm.
earthlings. Oh my gosh. I love seeing your pictures of them and the way you handle motherhood with grace. You know, there's so much strength and grace in you. I want to say hi to, there's a few people that joined, like Lala, Rudy Inc., 77 Grassroots. I know your real
Grassroots.
names, but I don't know I don't know them based on your Instagram name. So hello everybody. Thank you for
Yes.
joining. Yeah, so we shared that path. We started out with dance, and then we both found ourselves diving deeply into herbalism. I myself have definitely been deep diving into bioregional herbalism. What do we have here, including the invasives that we need to be using? They're here because they were medicine that was brought with colonizers that came over, and also with all of the people that were colonized and brought over. We have this wealth of medicine out there. So I've been really deep diving in that, in nature, harvesting it, everything from figuring out identification to harvesting it and using it for medicine. It's a big part of my practice. But then all of a sudden, like you, I went through a situation where I lost someone really deeply connected to me, my daughter. And although I had already been having these like spiritual experiences, that was the catalyst for me to really lean into it and develop it. And a lot of big things started happening that way. Just like you, it was like all these big things were happening that I could not explain away. I couldn't explain them away anymore, you know? And that was when I just kind of made a declaration to spirit that, okay, well, lead me forward on this journey because I want to stay connected to my daughter. That's really the catalyst of it. And I found
Hmm.
myself moving through all of that, opening up my herb shop here in Galena, Illinois, Enchanted Herb Shop, just trying to make herbalism accessible to my community. And then through that, spirit just literally like putting their foot in my butt and saying, you're going to do other work. No, you're going to do this spiritual stuff. And me kind of fighting it because of the perception of other people, what they might think of that. And Spirit told me at the time, they said, you know, don't you realize this has been connected for thousands of years?
Hmm.
Herbalism and spiritualism,
Hmm.
spiritual. So that's how I'm here. That's how I'm in this role. And now I am doing, not only do I do psychic mediumship, but they have introduced to me medical intuition. And it's blowing my mind. And they're
Beautiful.
teaching me so much about that. So now they're moving me into energy healing. This is coming directly from my guides. They're directly teaching me these things. So super exciting. But of course, we both have went through a lot in our lives, and I'm sure we could have easily settled into that like fear-based life perspective. We could have settled into paranoia, right? We could have been that, and I have been that a lot in my life actually. But now we just have a different path, a different sort of vision for what our life could be, and that shift of perspective has done a lot for me. So why don't you talk about like what is um, paranoia versus pronoia? I think it's pronounced pronoia, but I don't really know. What do you
Yeah.
have to say about that?
Yeah, for sure. So, yes. So, Pronoia, that is a phrase I found actually on Instagram from, and I wish I knew the handle. She's an amazing person, and she posts these like beautiful words that aren't used very much, um, but they're all like very centered. And I was like, you know, she just posted like a meme type thing that said pronoia, and it was like the opposite of paranoia. The and the meaning is the universe conspiring in your own favor. And I was like, this is so much what so many people need to digest today. And I don't know how far back, but it is medicine. It's definitely a medicine word. So I did look it up about the pronunciation and on Google or whatever, and it did say pronoia. So I think we're good there. Um,
Yeah, when you posted, I was
so
just like, oh gosh, I just locked onto it. Like, I love this word so much. And yeah, then we got together, we're talking about it. Go ahead.
for sure, yeah.
Hey,
So
Pebbles a Little Red, my
Pronoia,
cousin.
the the belief that the universe is conspiring in your favor. Um, why? So the first thing I wanted to kind of talk about is like, why is paranoia so well known, but pronoia isn't? At least in our culture,
Hmm.
um, in the American culture, and it's kind of like one of those. To me, it seems to be one of those like societal control mechanisms, right? Kind of. And I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but let's be real. There are a lot of conspiracies. Like, society is the way it is because people conspire to make it that way. This is not natural. This is not normal, nor is it healthy. So, I mean, some of it is, but a lot of it is just, no. So it's like, I feel like paranoia is put onto us, and because we have so much means of information these days, we have access to be paranoid for so many
Yeah.
reasons. And, pronoia is like relaxing inside of yourself. It is, to me, the concept of believing the universe is conspiring in your favor is sinking down into your heart space. And from that relaxation and being centered in the heart space comes kindness, comes um, what is the true point of us being here? Versus paranoia, which is like a lot to me is in the headspace, right? It's like these ideas, about, things are being poisoned. It's true. But if we're like, things are being poisoned, I'm going to get this disease tomorrow, this is going to happen to me, being on edge from the stimulation in our media that we're constantly fed, being on edge from the negativity in the news that we're constantly being fed, our nervous systems are all
Hmm.
hijacked. And it's so that's why I feel like this word isn't so well known, because I've never heard it before before
Right.
this pronoia. And yeah, I kind of feel like it's kind of a program we're put in to be more on the side of paranoia rather than pronoia.
Yeah. And I feel like even our lives can gear us up to be paranoid because that's certainly the case with me. I had a lot of things happen in my childhood, a lot of trauma that I endured that set me up to be very fearful in my mind, constantly like hypervigilant and paranoid about what would happen to me, what would come. And I have had to do a whole lot of work as an adult to kind of reprogram my mind because even just say 6 years ago, I was at catastrophizing. What is the word? Catastrophic? I don't know. I would turn everything into a catastrophe in my brain, no matter what it was. It was going to go the wrongest way possible. And I had to start becoming really aware of that. Like, wow, your brain's just going straight to the worst thing that's going to happen. And the worst thing almost never happens. But that's where
Hmm.
my brain wants to go. And it certainly was fed by this access you're talking about. Like, we have all the access to so much information. It's overwhelming. And I always talk about to people how our brains, if we use our brains so much, well, our brains were programmed to be aware of our direct environment, right? Like, is there a tiger coming to eat us? Is that berry going to kill us if we eat it, right? Like, are these people kind or are they a threat? That's really where our brain is meant to be. It like protects us. It keeps us safe. And so, like, when we allow our brain to run away with us that way, it will drag us. It will drag us behind. And media feeds that part of the brain, right? We see constantly all the negative things happening in the world. I am not even saying don't pay attention to that. because it's important to know what is going on in the world, but not 24/7, you know? It's
Mhm.
also important to say, okay, this is going on there. What can I realistically do to help here? Like, why am I using my energy to try to solve all of the world's problems when today I need to eat well? I need to be kind to the person coming in to see me. I need to think about the happy things that I can do after work, and to get my mind sort of recentered on a pronoic path is very healing. It's like very healing, and it calms that overstimulated system to, like you said, go into the heart space instead. Come out of the head. The head will mislead you. It'll drag you around like its little bitch. I mean, like that's just the truth. But your heart will soften things, will help you stay connected. So I think the discernment is super important. Like that red flag that needs to come up, but we have to almost learn how to see that red flag. Like, oh, we're shifting into paranoia here. What is causing me to be in the paranoid state? Discerning that is like I think a first step for people. And I certainly was starting to do that, like, about 10 years ago is when I started transitioning that way and discerning that. But it has only
Mhm.
been the last like 5, 6 years that I've really come through that in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. It is a discernment, an inner discernment that we need to sense and engage. And part of, like, a big part of this being caught in the head and ruminating, and then we become like directionless, is due to there's an imbalance right now in humanity of being in an overly masculine program. So if we think of the masculine energies within our body, the mind and the head is more of like kind of the masculine, whereas the senses is more of the feminine, feeling, um, receiving, intuition, where the thought can be like, okay, I'm gonna create this thought and create this thought and figure out a plan to do. What can I do to do? And we get trapped in that. So really, there, I'm working on this myself personally, reharmonizing into the feminine and and masculine balance within myself, which is really like can be said in more spiritual terms of like coming into our goddess energy, which men can do as well. We all come from the Great Mother, and we have a piece of this Great Mother inside of us. So the head is so important, like you were saying, to scan the environment, to know where danger is, to give your body instruction for action. But it works best. The head works best. The mind works best as a servant to the heart. And the heart is senses. And the heart, um, it rests and it perceives on a more subtle level, in less creation of that the mind makes, where
Like
we end up
steps and
ruminating and all that.
structure
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
action and.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think it's great to discern, like you were saying, okay, I'm overthinking this. I need to like bring it back down into my body, into my heart, and rest and listen to what my heart is telling and guiding. Because that is a very like that's a sense where if you are someone who works with your spiritual guides, you will receive your messages from your higher spirit guides, and then you
And
won't have these
their voice.
lower energies kind of leading you astray.
Hmm.
And even if the worst does happen, being paranoid in that state isn't going to help you.
No,
there's always
it's
a
depleting.
greater. Right, exactly. So sometimes I do think about that, when I am feeling insecure, when I'm feeling doubtful, when I'm feeling worried. um so what if the worst happens? What if the worst does happen? You know, you're
Hmm.
still going to have to get up and move from a place of trust and strength to be able to do any of it. You
Right,
know, even on our deathbed,
right,
if we're in a low vibration on our deathbed, where are we going to go afterwards?
right. And I actually have panic attacks, and I have not had almost any in the past few years, but that's where I go when I let my head run away with everything. Um, and it's funny because I don't actually see it as masculine, feminine. I happen to be non-binary, so I don't view it that way. But it is the way that you describe it. It's like the head wants to be this architect of fixing, and the heart wants to be the river that calms, right? The river that smooths, the river that softens, the river that carries you where you need to go. So it's a very different kind of energy, yes. Um, but I feel too like when I get in my head and I allow the paranoia to run away with me, it's just a me thing. Like it's a I need to survive, my children need to survive kind of mentality that I shift into, and that can quickly lead to panic for me. Whereas when I shift it to my heart, it becomes here you are in this community. You have so much support. You have these resources. There is deep connection. And just shifting it actually brings in community for me. It doesn't feel so alone, right? Because the
Yes.
paranoia makes me feel like I'm this warrior and I've got to like go out there and fight and make sure that I'm safe. Whereas if I shift to my heart, it's like I am supported. I have community. I have people who will help. I have somewhere safe to land. And it brings in that community focus, which I feel is definitely something that we need to be moving toward.
Yeah.
Considering our community and building that level of resilience for people so that other people who are around us are not trapped in that paranoid state too, instead of, pronoic, where we see what is good around us and we see who can
Oh,
help and
sorry.
we see, yeah, it's like,
Having some camera stuff.
it's fine. But yeah, just shifting
I
there.
wholeheartedly agree with all that. And I wanted to add to that too that so paranoia is a very egoic, imbalanced state. It's like, so our egos, we all need our egos, right? We're human.
Mm-hmm.
We have this mind, which makes this projection of us, which is very useful to
Mm-hmm.
do our work in this life. Um, the goal is to balance your ego with, well, in my work, the goal is to balance your ego with your spirit and the guidance from there. So when we're in this egoic state, or yeah, so when we're in paranoia, it's like this highly egoic state where we're in a bunch of projections that we're making. And it's like, oh no, what about me? Like, this is against me and this is against me. And just to have that understanding of being like, yo, like your way being, I don't want to say self-centered is good, but it's like too self-absorbed, but not in the true self, in the
Yes.
ego self.
Right.
And if we step out of that and we think about that, like pronoia is a fact of reality. The universe is totally conspiring in our favor. The sun shines every day. The earth is growing food and medicine. The water is flowing for our hydration and healing. Like everything is working in our favor,
Mm-hmm.
literally, except for these smaller things. And you could say I speak from where I stand. So I'm not putting myself in the situation of another who is in a country like Sudan at war or Pakistan or
Right.
Congo. I can only speak from where I am. And I'm guessing if you're watching this live, you're in a situation where your life is highly conspiring in your favor. And we just need to step outside of our projections and look around like, oh my gosh, the air is warm, the strawberries in the ground are sweet, like all of this, it definitely is conspiring in our favor. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah,
It's a,
yeah.
yeah, we gotta step out of our egoic mess sometimes.
And part of the egoic mess is imagining that somehow, because for me, what I want to do is I want to help everyone. I want to solve everyone's problems. I want to like, run to Sudan and help them. I want to, go to Palestine and help them. Those kinds of things, like that's not even realistic. It's not even realistic. So it's like you're running this energy that doesn't go anywhere, you know? Um, Whereas if you bring yourself back to your heart center, you say, I recognize that they are struggling. I am so sad that they are struggling. How can I make sure that in my community, people feel safer? People feel, I just always kind of try to bring it back to community when I feel my heart wanting to do the help, and then my brain getting in there and saying, okay, this is how we can help. We can do all of these things that really aren't going to go anywhere. They're not going to go anywhere. Important to use
Mhm.
our voices for that reason, so that we are all aware. However, when I start getting into that paranoid state of that ego trying to save the world, it serves the world better for me to focus on my community, the things that are realistic for me to help with. So I'm always trying to bring that back in. I find that that really helps. It helps my brain, but it helps me feel like I am using my energy in a way that's sustainable instead of
Mhm.
depleting. And that
Yes.
sustainable energy is going to carry us further. It is definitely, I feel, focusing on that is definitely more of a pronoic sort of path.
Yeah, I agree. Like with the media, the worldwide media, we are able to have access to injustices that are happening and, know what's going on almost everywhere. But there is a reason we were born here and now, and
Mm-hmm.
why we have access and touch the lives all around us where we are. And when we call our power back into that and don't see it as, you know, grass is greener syndrome of, I mean, that can be transferred over to like a savior
Right,
complex.
right.
The grass is greener savior complex. I need to save the widely known injustice situation instead of, let's do what we can, even if it's behind closed doors. And
Mm-hmm.
within that, not only are we still healing, but we are bringing our power back and healing ourselves in that way too. Um, so yeah, community and localization, is that the word for it? Is really important.
And when we bring our power back and we do the work that we should do to heal ourselves, and we help those people who are directly connected with us, we really undervalue the way that reverberates in our community and
Mhm.
reverberates in our lives. And, like in the work that we do, I can often think to myself, well, what is this, a party trick? I'm just connecting people with the loved ones that they lost, or I'm just telling them what's going on in their body. Like, how am I helping them? But that person receives that healing energy from spirit, and they, you know, they are healed a little bit in that connection, and that helps them to heal themselves. They start to work on those things they need to heal, and it reverbs that way. So I feel like we discount the impact that we have when we shift to that pronoic space where we are just dealing with what we can actually accomplish in our own lives and the healing that we need to do, and being that heart-centered focus. It's like, oh, I'm not really doing much. I'm just focusing on being happy with the people around me. No, that heals. That heals in a big wave because it reverberates. Um, there's a snowball effect to both sides, right? The snowball effect of paranoia is that when I am paranoid, my children are paranoid. my spouse is paranoid. The people
Mm,
around me feel that energy and they become paranoid. And there's anger and panic and actions that don't go anywhere that starts happening. Well, if I shift that to pronoia, I am well. The water is flowing. The plants are growing for me. The sun is shining for me. Like here I am in this existence, and here I am now. I was born into this existence, like you're saying, for a reason. I know I have lived many lives. This is the life I'm in now. So, okay, heart, what can we do with this today? Right? Um, and then it snowballs in the other way, the opposite way, where all of a sudden we see the good that we can do that is effective, that is helpful in our community and for ourselves. And it brings in that calm. The calm can snowball too. So
mhm.
there's both sides of that.
Right, right. Yes. And I wanted to also mention, I think one of the definitions I looked up of the origins, the etymology of pronoia is the meaning foresight. And so I was thinking about that and I was like, yes, to be pronoic is to have foresight, is to move, is it it's a sight that helps you usher forward. Whereas paranoid, you can't you can't do anything. You're stuck.
Like you're
You're
trying to
setting
escape what you experienced, like, I got to get out of here. It's
right.
like
It's
a,
kind
yeah.
of like a cage and it stops your evolution.
Hmm.
Um so So it's really important right now. A lot of people are, I guess, like waking up, or I like to say opening their awareness to
Hmm.
these deeper ways of being in the world, more spiritual ways of being in the world, looking into their indigenous ancestral practices, becoming more rooted, calling in their guides. Becoming more aware of these subtle energy healing practices. And Pronoia, it it just puts it's a name, it puts it into a container of, for me, what I've been already experiencing since doing this work. Um, and there's a lot of ways, let's see, I wrote a little bit of notes, to have a relationship with Pronoia. Like we had a conversation prior to this, and I was saying, and it depends on like what frequencies you tap into. So some of us are working with our ancestors, our elevated ancestors. Some of us are working with, these goddess energies. Some of us are working with, what they call God or the universe or the Great Spirit. And to me, these are all perceptions, or these are all ways to work within that pronoic energy field.
Hmm.
When we call in our guides that are we are in frequency with, there there becomes an inner knowing in the heart. We are being led forward. We are being elevated. We are working on our frequency ascension, however you want to describe it. So I guess this is kind of more of like advice for me to the people of how to tap deeper into this pronoic awareness, is to
Hmm.
continue communicating with these your guides or these higher frequency energies that you work with, and you're already in that container.
Yeah, I feel like it's also very subtle. It's very subtle, and people feel like if they try to tap in, they're like, why am I not hearing that booming voice in my head that tells me these things? And that's really not how it feels. So it can be very subtle. So when you lean into this energy of what do my guides have to say, I often will put my, hand on my heart right there. It kind of shifts the energy. There's so many things that you can do, grounding, that kind of thing. But I put my hand on my heart and I just let all the thoughts fall out of my head and I just come to this place of receiving. And it might be super subtle. It might just be all of a sudden an awareness. It might be a feeling that I need to go do something that would be calming. But it's not a booming voice in your head most of the time, though I do hear that now. But it started with something very subtle. And so don't discount the subtlety of spirit when it comes on you. Start to notice it. And I found my life changing drastically when I started to shift my awareness to that subtlety of spirit and feel where they were leading me to. Because our
Mm-hmm.
ancestors have a whole lot to say to us. They are there for us. I feel that they're immediately when we want to tap in. They're excited to help us. So they love it when we start to shift that awareness. And don't beat yourself up if it doesn't happen right away. Just trust and keep leaning in, and you will find that it grows in levels. And that's how it starts, for a lot of people. Maybe some people it's like, the Wizard of Oz voice coming in. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yes, for a lot of us, it is subtle. It starts subtle for sure. And I do know some folks that they, they have been guided very directly, and it has
Yeah,
been situations that, um, like the Western medical system would call like a mental health disorder, but really they were really tapped in and were literally hearing voices, being guided, going into trances with their guides. So there is a scale for sure. Um, but there are a lot of practices too that I work with that have helped me on my healing journey, and that I'm now working with people that can very clearly enhance your connection with your guides and your sense of pronoia within that. Like,
mhm.
sorry, I have a little. Okay. For example, dream divination. So keeping track of your dreams. Um, you know, People can take herbs to enhance their dreams or cancel out other herbs that dull down their
Right.
dreams,
Yeah.
and then record them, and then you can get a divination from certain people. I do that work myself. My teacher does that work. That's how I learned. And then eventually you can learn to divine your own dreams as well. It's a very intuitive thing. So that is one of the most powerful and accessible ways to receive messages from our guides is through dreams. It's amazing. Across indigenous cultures around the world,
Yeah.
dreams are very, very sacred and they're always popping up. So I love that. And then there's other practices too. Like I was talking about earlier, a lot of the paranoia is overusage of the head and kind of fizzled out nervous system. Our nervous system needs so much support, as you and me know, working with herbs. Like nervines are all the rage.
Right.
For me
Right.
especially, I'm Vata dosha, primarily Vata dosha. So, and I've had a pretty crazy life. So,
Yeah.
nourishing my nervous system is so much part of my health management, or however you want to say it. Try not to get myself in trouble here.
Right.
But where was I going with that? So yes, nourishing our nervous system and also engaging in practices that soothe our nervous system, like grounding, rooting, um, in nature, bare feet, breath work, controlling the energy in our body through the breath is such another super accessible tool to nourish ourselves and to put us in a nervous state where we actually are able to perceive messages from our
Right.
guides. If we're
Right.
like this
Mm-mm.
and our
Not
guides
gonna
are a
happen.
subtle, yeah, a subtle um, sense leading us in a certain direction within our bodies, or yeah, even a voice, or even a dream. If our nerves are like this, it's not going to come through. So we need to do these nature connection practices, uh, deep breathing to calm our nervous system and stimulate certain glands that relax us. And um, yeah,
service
there's
that.
a lot of tools and skills we can do on a day-to-day basis that will enhance this container of pronoic living as well.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, the nervines are big, definitely. And in fact, like most of the teas that I have at the shop that I have formulated, they all come with nervines because it's part of so many pictures of dysregulation in our body and those paths that are kind of clogged up with that kind of paranoid energy, really, trapped from, and I don't even mean this in a woo sense. I mean that we have brains have been programmed to respond in a certain way, and so the energy channel is going the wrong direction, right?
Mhm.
And so these nervines
Yes.
can come in to kind of redirect those paths and soothe those paths so that we don't have that giant paranoid sort of explosion when something happens. Instead, our brain's like, oh, this is going on. Relax,
Hmm.
breathe. It kind of shifts the energy, it shifts the paths, it reprograms things. So definitely using a lot of those for sure. And, you know, uh, you were talking about people who receive direct messages. It can definitely look on the outside to be the picture of mental illness. And I have definitely myself, I refrain from speaking about these things in certain crowds because that is how I would be perceived. And um, you know, I think that that wall is coming down now. We are having way more people that are more aware, and you know what? This makes me very hopeful for those people who do have mental health conditions that inhibit their lives, right? If we can come at it from a different approach and understand that, yes, in fact, maybe they are hearing spirit, right? But we've been programmed to be afraid of that. We've been programmed to dismiss that, to shove that down. And it can run away with you. If your energy isn't channeled in the right direction, these things can run away with you, and you can find yourself in that sort of airy space where you're never kind of coming back down. That becomes the problem. So these practices that we are doing for people, I think it opens their mind up to that possibility a lot more, but it also brings in the tools to help them feel anchored in that possibility of opening up to spirit. So I think that that's key too. And like I said, I'm excited to see how this works out in mental health. This new awareness that it's not new, it's timeless. However, in our day and age, we're becoming more open to it. That's where
Hmm.
we're at. So yeah.
Yeah. Yep. As we move back down to the heart,
Hmm.
sensing, and the heart space it's a unity space where the mind is more me. It's more my projections. But in the heart space, it's like me and we. So kind of
Hmm.
goes along with that community concept you're talking about of like we definitely do need community. That's been another thing that's been societally, structurally broken up and taken apart from us to put us into this the work fields and things of that nature, the workforce, the work fields, all of it. So yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought, but I did want to add another thing to the practices that we help guide folks with and work in these healing modalities with. And you were saying folks who appear to be having these mental health issues, but really they are going through a spiritual awakening, or their vessel has become open enough for those frequencies to come through them. Um, I just wanted to say it's really important to have a physical guide in a lot of cases because of that. Now, there are natural initiations happening all the time. Like, we were naturally initiated in the way we were. But at the same time, when all these things start happening and you're like, whoa, like,
Hmm.
this is getting weird, and you can go into a more pronoic area or space, or sometimes get pulled deeper into that paranoia. So it's so important to have a physical guide, as these other guides are coming through,
Yeah,
or however it may be, you may be experiencing it. That's why there are these age-old initiations and teachers, and you know, babas, gurus. Different traditions have different names,
right,
and we're coming more into a day and age where, like, we can't go to a temple. Not most people can't just go and live at a temple
right,
and be a monk through that physical initiation. So mentors and guides who, like you and I, who are kind of there to walk along the journey aside you, but
right.
not. It's different than it used to be, because we are still living in this structure, and a big part of the awareness too is knowing that we are coming to the strength of being our own guides at the same time, and not having
Mm-hmm.
to lean on a teacher or a baba or a guru is part of it as
Right.
well. So yeah, I guess I
There's
just
the
want to say.
unfolding. There's like the unfolding of that, right? And I know for myself, there I was trying to do it on my own, and I did a lot of work on my own. But there came a point where I needed someone else to step in and remind me of the directions I could go, or to bring in practices that I could use to help myself become more fully open, but also protected in my energy, right? So I did need that teacher. And in fact, I'm going to leave on Sunday, and I'm going to go to Canada, and I'm going to meet my teacher. So I'm excited about meeting my teacher, Danielle Sarank, who
Sorry about
was
that.
one of the teachers on that path, no problem, was one of the teachers that I needed on this path. So I didn't do it completely on my own. There was a lot of work that I did, yes, on my own. But to have that other person who can bring in the other perspective, but also teach you techniques and explain things that they've already experienced, because it unfolds for everyone differently. And a good guide, a good physical guide, a good mentor, a good teacher, Baba, guru, whatever the practice happens to be, is somebody who realizes that it's going to be completely different for everyone. It's going to look completely different. It's
Mhm.
going to happen completely different. And to support someone in that kind of journey where it is uniquely their own, while also encouraging them to stay with that energy of it being unique to them, and not dismantling it and trying to force them into a different way. I really think that's important too. Some people really enjoy the structure of an organized sort of path, and that's great too. And some people want it to be a little looser, but finding the teacher that resonates with what you need is, I think it's a great idea. And I certainly do a lot of teaching in my readings one-on-one. I have chosen not to teach in big classes or offer it as a teaching, because I realize the readings in themselves are moments where I can have that one-on-one and teach people techniques and help them through through their own unfolding of this energy, awareness, awakening. I don't like the word awakening either,
Right.
but it's
Yeah.
overused right now. Yeah.
Keeping it grounded.
Right.
And
Right.
that's a big part of the work in this path, is just staying grounded, trying not
Yes.
to go off with the trends or
Right.
turn it into some sort of um, trademark word situation.
Yeah. Right.
um,
Right. I think too that so many people think that spirituality has to be complicated and involves tools and outfits and teachers and candles, and like it can be very simple. It can be you and spirit. That's it. It doesn't have to be big.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, we are the portals.
Hmm.
It's as simple as
Yeah.
that. We are the portals to everything that we
We are
experience in
spirit.
this reality.
We are
Right,
spirit.
exactly. It's so, yeah, capitalism has it's changed a lot of, sorry, my teenagers
Yeah, no
last day of school was
problem.
yesterday. I'm on live, so I can't talk right now. Um, but it's just changed a lot of things in the way we do things, the way we look at things. But again, shifting back to a pronoic view of reality, there is always something to learn and see and a nugget to find within all of the negatives.
Hmm.
Is the there can be a spiritual lesson in everything if
Yeah,
we are open to seeing it and finding it. So we can
certainly.
be like, I used to be more pessimistic about kind of like what it looks like to be a light worker, or um these things that seem to be a fad and a trend. And yeah, there are a lot of people coming from an imbalanced ego, or there was. And the reason I was also perceiving it that way is because I was coming from an imbalanced ego as well. So it was the frequency I was seeing it on, which is
Hmm.
what showed more of that to me. Yes.
It's kind of like, am I supposed to be doing that too? Maybe I should do that too. Um, and to be honest, for some people, it's fine. That's the medicine they find at the time, right? And if they want to lean into that sort of thing, it feels powerful to them at the time. I trust that it's walking them in the right direction, you know?
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And so again, with that comes all of like the extra stuff we don't really need to do this work, right? We don't need like 25 singing bowls, and we don't need an Aya ceremony every, other month. And we don't need this stuff. But it's amazing at the same time. You can look at the ego in it all, or you can look at the spirit in it all. And from there, like, I'm learning to not the judge the imbalances so much, but just to, make note, and then discernment of the way I want to move within it all.
right.
And always go back to that grounding in
Yeah.
in myself, and in my heart space of what's true and what really resonates, opposed to just my projections.
Hmm. So do you want to talk about what you're offering now? Kind of, we've been talking for about an hour now. And you know what, the other day we talked for an hour and a half on the same topic. But yeah,
Yes.
what are you offering? What are you doing right now? You're out of Madison, Wisconsin, but
Yep.
how can people find you?
Yeah, so I am living here in Madison, Wisconsin with my family. And I have a website. It is www.miramoonlightholistics.com. It's kind of a long name,
I
but
love it
you have a
though.
link in, yeah, Mira Moon Light Holistics. I have a link in my bio. Um, so I'm an herbalist, and I produce herbal tinctures. So I'm bending those. I'm
You
doing
have your
community
own product
outreach.
line. Yeah.
Yes, yep. And I'm actually so shifting from my old website, which was Moondance Wildcraft, which is my tincture line's name, that will eventually be shifting as well. But I have links to all of my products on my moondancewildcraft.com website. And then I have my mother website, Mira Moonlight Holistics, which has my service offerings, my links to my apothecary that I just told you about. Um, and I also am doing holistic guidance sessions. So with these sessions, it's kind of like what we've been talking about, basically. We meet or I meet people where they're at who are having, whatever they feel and resonant to come to me with, whether they're having a spiritual opening or they simply need more grounding in these chaotic times and are having too much paranoia. It could even be something like that. They want to work with herbs. They want to change their lifestyle to a more holistic lifestyle. Um, so I have holistic guidance sessions. I meet people where they're at. And then from these modalities that from the ancestral lineages I've initiated into to clinical herbalism, and then even belly dance, I've integrated that with energetic work
It's great
to kind of
for
open up
that.
the to open up the kundalini energy and help that raise up. So from a lot of these skills and healing modalities have helped me on my path. I meet the person where they're at and I listen, and yeah, I kind of intuit what I find would help them with where they are and where they're wanting to go, and kind of take out all of the extra static through the filter of these practices. And I'm also offering energy healing sessions, which works with the Kundalini energy. And that really helps um, move blockages, stagnant blockages within folks that can be there from past traumas,
Mm-hmm.
and charging their chakras, their energy centers. So yeah, it kind of comes off in layers. So a lot of people would like to do a few sessions of that. For people that have been doing energy healing work for a while and have kind of released a lot of that stuff, the Kundalini energy manifests as like a blissful energy and charges their bliss bodies. So it's a really beautiful modality. And yeah, I really like working with folks on all this.
Yeah, so of course I do have my physical shop in Galena, Illinois, Enchanted Herb Shop. We're at the end of the main strip, and I offer a product line as well. I have about 16 teas that are very popular. They help with a variety of things. But also I am a psychic medium, and I do offer readings for connecting with your loved ones who passed away, also connecting in with your past lives and connecting in with your spirit guides and even animals. I do animal readings as well, not just connecting with animals who've passed away, but with animals who are living that maybe need to understand them better, as well as nonverbal people. Nonverbal people, families will come in and ask me about them as well. So I'm able to do those things. And then also I am doing wellness intuition, so body intuition. I am scanning for disbalances, for dysregularities in the organ systems, and my perception of that is something that I share with you. In with that comes a lot of other things directly from my guides who I work with. I work with 3 guides who are very well informed, and they will bring up all kinds of things like what you might be sensitive to in your diet, to lifestyle changes, to things that you need to really be getting medical attention for. Um, a lot comes in that way. So I'm also offering those medical intuition scans. And of course, people just come in and chat with me all the time for other reasons, maybe business reasons or relationship. But I'm here to help you make your life softer. You know, Spirit wants to come in and help, and I am a channel for that. I'm a channel for their messages and for their energy. So that's my whole goal is come in, let's sit with my guides, let's sit with your guides, let's sit with your ancestors, and let's see how we can make your life softer. So I have my website, it's enchantedherbshop.com. There are my readings listed there, and I also have a shop there where you can purchase my teas. I also have a line of balms. I don't think I have them on there, and some other products, but they're all available here in my shop as well. And I'm open from Thursday through Sundays. And on every Saturday, I have walk-in tarot. I feel like walk-in tarot, it's some people think it's for entertainment purposes, but really what happens that day just blows my mind because Spirit will bring in people that need deep healing. and we'll do it through the tarot. So Spirit's smart, and they know how to bring in the healing for you. And so I'm really happy to be in service of Spirit right now and doing that work for them. And it's definitely a team effort. So that's what I'm doing. So anyway, thank you so much for doing this live.
Beautiful.
And we've been having, like I said, even bigger conversations beyond this. We've talked for a few hours about this topic, and I just thank you for for being my friend for so long. I love your energy. I love watching your life unfold the way it has been, and seeing your cute babies on Facebook and Instagram. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Tamara. I appreciate you so much. You've always been so like just nurturing for me, and I love that. I think a part of me, I was the youngest, so I just like attract nurturers sometimes, but it's so
Right.
appreciated, and
Yeah.
I look forward to coming to your shop in Galena.
Yeah, we
Um,
got to get together soon.
yeah, I think my baby's getting old enough where he can take longer car rides
Mm-hmm.
if I just go. So yeah, I look forward to
Yeah.
that.
Well, we'll see you soon. All
Yeah, for
right. You
sure.
bye
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you for joining in on this conversation today. And you guys
Yeah,
have a
for sure.
great week.
Thank y'all. All right, peace.
Okay.